मैं सीधे लिए चलते हैं आपको विदेश मंत्रालय की प्रेस वार्ता में।
Ministerial dialogue with the United States of America. We are here at this slightly different venue at the Sushma Swaraj Bhavan, and I thank you all for coming and joining us. To give us a sense of the conversations that have taken place today morning, we have the privilege of having with us here Foreign Secretary Sir Shri Vinay Quatra, as well as Defense Secretary Sir Shri Girdhar Aramane. Also joining us, Ambassador to US Shri Taranjit Sandhu, as well as Additional Secretary looking after America's Division Srimati Vani Rao. I would request Foreign Secretary Sir and Defense Secretary Sir to make opening remarks, after which we will take questions from the media. Sir, your floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Arindam. My colleague and friend, Defense Secretary Girdhar Aramane, Ambassador Sandhu, again good friend and our ambassador in Washington DC, Additional Secretary Vani Rao, friends from the media. As Arindam just said, we have just now concluded a very rewarding and a substantive 2+2 dialogue, the 5th edition of this dialogue between India and the United States. The meetings today and the atmospherics surrounding the meeting were all indicative of the enduring commitment of the bilateral partnership, but equally importantly, our desire to work together to expand this partnership further and to deepen it more. You're all aware of the intensity of the diplomatic engagement between India and the United States in recent years, including this year in particular. We have had two very highly successful heads of the state, heads of the government visit. Honorable Prime Minister had a historical visit to the US in June this year, and most recently we had the honor of welcoming President Biden on a successful visit to India on the occasion of the G20 summit. The collective outcomes of Honorable Prime Minister's visit to the US and President Biden's visit to India have really given us a strong leadership-driven momentum to bolster, to strengthen, to expand this relationship much further. In today's 2+2 discussions, the principals on both sides, Honorable Raksha Mantri Ji, External Affairs Minister on the Indian side, Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense on the US side, undertook a comprehensive review of our bilateral relations. We discussed of multiple partnerships. After I finish, my colleague, Defense Secretary, will speak to the defense partnership part, defense and security cooperation part of this relationship. But besides that, the trade and investment partnership, the technology partnership, partnerships relating to the emerging area of critical and emerging technologies, value chain and supply chain securitization of different products and services, partnership in the field of space, our continuing engagement in the field of mineral securities through the Mineral Security Partnership Framework, our common efforts in combating terrorism. These all and much more formed part of the overview of bilateral relationship that was undertaken by the principals earlier in the 2+2 dialogue. In addition, the principals also focused on and deliberated on the ongoing regional developments. They, of course, discussed the common challenges, the shared challenges that both India and the US face, but also how to work more strongly to harness the opportunities that exist in many of the regions of the world. If I was to highlight few of 4 or 5 specific themes under the regional discussion. One was our growing cooperation on the connectivity side, particularly including through the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. As you are all aware, that was launched on the sidelines of the G20 summit in September this year. Continuing and growing cooperation under the Quad framework. Our partnership, of course, in the Indo-Pacific, how a perspective on India's leadership of the global south, and what value proposition that brings to the India-US relationship, etc. These were some of the areas which we focused on in the principles focused on in the discussions in the 2+2 Hill today. Sure, I thought I was loud enough and didn't want somebody to say lower down the volume. Today's dialogue has actually helped both India and the US to energize the multifaceted India-US cooperation and reaffirmed our partnership, the objectives and the goals inherent in it. We are grateful to the principals for guiding our efforts to elevate the India-US relations. Later in the evening, there would be call on the Honorable Prime Minister by the 4 principals on both sides. With these words, I would stop and would request my colleague, Defense Secretary, to speak on important segments of 2+2 earlier today. Okay.
Thank you. Vinay, Terry, Vani and Arindam and friends from media. The visit to India of Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense from US is when the defense ties between the two countries are the strongest. We had a very successful visit of our Honorable Prime Minister in June this year, in which many new initiatives were struck. These initiatives have to be taken to their logical conclusion. This 2+2 is in a way continuation of the important steps taken during that visit. We, in the 2+2 meeting, shared our common and convergent interests and shared our mutual goals. Especially in the regional and global scenario, when the situation is very volatile, the visit of the dignitaries from US is of great significance. It affords an opportunity to review the security and see how the upholding of international law and humanitarian assistance can be looked at very closely and in a mutually comfortable fashion. We have seen a convergence of strategic and economic interests over a period of time. In fact, many times our strategic interests are subserved by our economic cooperation and codependence. Especially in the field of technology, our cooperation has gone to a new level. Yesterday there was a investor meet, both from US and India. The innovative ecosystem had a very deep dialogue. The investors and the innovators had a heart-to-heart talk under the direction of the DIU from US and DIO of Ministry of Defense India. This partnership will give the necessary dynamism for Indian industry, enabling them to become parts of the global supply chain. Today, the two principals, in fact 4 of them, had a very frank and in-depth discussion covering the bilateral relationship in a comprehensive fashion as Vinay has explained. In essence, the defense cooperation has become a rock solid support to the bilateral relations between the two countries. The potential collaboration in emerging domains for the civilian commercial use as well as for the strategic use also was a topic of common interest. How the defense industries can intersect each other's interests and promote each other in this particular context of strong bilateral ties was also a matter of great focus. Our extensive engagement has yielded important results. This meeting will contribute to giving a momentum to the defense industry roadmap, which was recently finalized. We have a common vision of free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific and a rules-based global order throughout the seas in this world. Our partnership is of critical importance to peace and stability in our immediate neighborhood, but also in other regions connected to us. I thank Vinay and his team for organizing this 2+2 in a very efficient fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will now open the floor for questions. Ground rules, please. Please identify yourself and the organization that you represent. Also, we will limit it to one question per person, and we will also have to bunch a few questions given the paucity of time. May I start with you, ma'am, here? Microphone's coming to you.
Samira Hussain with BBC News. Can I ask if Israel, the conflict between Israel and Gaza came up in your discussions, and what can you tell us about what those discussions were?
One second, behind you, yeah, please. Yeah.
सर ऋषिकेश पीटीआई से सर क्या जो चाइना का जो बॉर्डर एग्रेशन है और जो भूटान के साथ चीन और भूटान के बीच में जो बॉर्डर इशू चल रहा है उस पर भी बातचीत हुई है 2+2 में या फिर जो बायलैटरल हुआ डिफेंस मिनिस्टर्स के बीच में?
Yeah, Pia there, right.
Hi, Pia with the print. Did the India-Canada diplomatic spat feature in this 2+2 dialogue? Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, I am Sanjeev Kumar Barua from The Week. During the talks, was the ongoing conflict in Israel being seen as a dampener to the connectivity plan between India, Middle East and Europe?
So maybe we'll take one set of 4 and then we'll go on. If I could pass these 4 questions to the panel, sir, and then we can take a few more questions. I would also like, sir, if you permit, if there are any other questions on these topics, perhaps we could take them together. Anybody has a question related to these? Then maybe it's easier to answer them. Okay, yeah, please.
Sir, Shruti Ranjan from the Bloomberg, sir. On the India-Canada issue, sir, if you could give us a clear understanding what was the discussion and whether there was a renewed demand for India to join the investigation. If so, what was India's reply, sir? Thank you.
Anybody else has related questions related to these topics? Okay, sir, go ahead. Microphone, please. Yeah, other microphone, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm Emerson from Taiwan. Aside from Israel, is Taiwan Strait in South China Sea discussed?
Sorry, that wasn't a related question. I think you misunderstood me. I'll come back to you on the question. Ayushi, you have it on this question? Yeah, microphone behind you.
Sir, Ayushi Agarwal from ANI. Also, on this India-Canada row, was there also any discussion on the withdrawal of Canadian diplomats since US has earlier expressed concerns regarding this Canadian diplomats from India?
Okay. Same question? Yeah, okay.
Sir, Abhishek Jar from CNN News 18. Did the discussion also have anything with the US intelligence, which apparently was the reason on the basis of which Canadian Prime Minister alleged intelligence is so? Did you talk about the intelligence sharing also?
Okay. Same with you or same topic? Yeah.
सर मैं विशाल पांडे हूँ ज़ी न्यूज़ से. क्या इस मुलाकात में इजराइल हमास युद्ध पर चर्चा हुई और क्या सीज़फायर को लेकर भी कोई बातचीत हुई है?
Okay, so with this I'll pass on the questions.
Thank you. Let me first take up the bucket of questions relating to India-Canada, whether it came up for discussions, and if it came up for discussions, in what form it came up, withdrawal of diplomats, renewed demand for investigations, etc., etc. Look, insofar as Canada is concerned, we have been having very consistent conversation with all our friends and partners. And our position on this matter has been enunciated, explained in full detail at multiple occasions, including in the weekly pressers that Arindam hosts. And the thrust of our conversation with our partners, no different today than it is at any other forum, is essentially that, look, we have core security concerns, and I'm sure you're all aware of the recent video that has surfaced from one such individual, which poses I think this is Patan Singh Pannu's video, which presents a very serious security concern for the Indian interest. And we have made our position very, very clear to our friends and partners, and I think they understand and appreciate that sense of where India comes from. On the question of conflict between Israel and Palestine, I think 3-4 thoughts behind different questions on this. One of which relates to whether it came up for discussions, what were the perspectives. आपने इजराइल हमास युद्ध के बारे में बात की, सीजफायर के बारे में बात की, वो एक परिप्रेक्ष्य प्रश्न का. And then there was another thought with regard to this conflict. Look, this is naturally, as I said, that among the regional developments, the three set of things which came up for discussion, it included, of course, the developments in the Middle East. Both sides shared their perspective of how, of their concern, how they look at the situation, where various elements of the developing situation, etc. Our position, India's position on this is well known to you. It also came up in discussion, and I think certain elements of how both sides look at the situation are common. From India's perspective, we have always stood for a two-state solution, early resumptions of dialogue. You are also aware of very early on in the when the current hostility started, India put out a tweet condemning the horrific terrorist attacks on Israel on October 7. And we have always advocated zero tolerance for terrorism. Besides, there is also the angle of humanitarian assistance in the given situation. You are aware that India has already sent about 38 tons of humanitarian assistance to the region to address the humanitarian situation which is there. We have asked for strict observance of international humanitarian law, de-escalation of the situation, and of course also condemned the civilian casualties where they've occurred. The sharing of perspective between the principals was built around these parameters in the discussions. जहाँ तक पीटीआई का प्रश्न था चीन भूटान को लेके, चीन भूटान का जहाँ तक प्रश्न है या चीन से जुड़े बाकी पूरे परिप्रेक्ष्य का प्रश्न है, तो चीन की आचार संहिता क्षेत्र में, क्षेत्रीय परिप्रेक्ष्य में क्या है, कैसी है, वो सब मुद्दे जो हैं दोनों पक्षों के बीच में विस्तृत रूप से जो है उन पे वार्तालाप हुआ था. स्पेसिफिक किन चीज़ों पे कम, किसी में ज़्यादा, बट चीन को लेके वार्तालाप दोनों देशों के बीच में हुआ था.
Thank you. Next round of questions. Yeah, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Ajay Banerjee, work in the Tribune. My question is to the Defense Secretary. Sir, was there a discussion on the engine F414? The last time you had a discussion about that. And any progress on the MQ-9B drones? And thirdly, sir, has the US offered a land strike vehicle to us, the Striker, if I may name it? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir, I'm Sanjeev from News 24. Just wanted to know whether the topic of the release of 8 ex-Navy personnel in the Qatari jail right now was also discussed. Will America use its good office to help us?
Huma.
Sir, I'm Huma Siddiqui from the
Perhaps before we go home, anybody else has the defense part of it related to this? Because we talk a couple of these questions. Anybody else has a defense related question? If not, I'll go. You have a defense related question? Yeah, okay. So I'll just come to you.
Sir, your question for the Defense Secretary, sir, Shruti from Bloomberg, sir. Any additional details to the infantry vehicles that discussions are on? Is there an agreement that is there that you could tell us about? And also, any other means that you've discussed on hastening the engines coming to India? Any other discussions you've had on the jet engines, sir?
There was a hand behind there. Same questions? Yeah, go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, sir. This is Anju Nirvan from TV9 Bharatvarsh. My question with Defense Secretary. Sir, जिस तरीके से भारत और अमेरिका की डिफेंस डील को लेकर लगातार बात हो रही है और प्रीडेटर ड्रोन और जो इंजन को लेकर भी जो डील हुई है, अभी जो डिस्कशन हुए हैं, क्या उसमें उसको लेकर और आगे चर्चा बढ़ी है? प्रीडेटर ड्रोन्स की अगर हम बात करें तो भारत को ये कब मिलने की संभावना है? क्योंकि लगातार अगर हम थ्रेट की अगर हम बात करें तो भारत के पास दो तरफ से थ्रेट है, चाइना की ओर से, मतलब ईस्टर्न लद्दाख बॉर्डर की अगर हम बात करें या वेस्टर्न कमांड की अगर हम बात करें तो दोनों तरफ से थ्रेट है.
अगर क्वेश्चन टाइट रखें, क्या प्रश्न था आपका? से ड्रोन्स पे कुछ मूवमेंट हुई है या नहीं?
नहीं सर, प्रीडेटर ड्रोन्स,
प्रीडेटर
भारत और अमेरिका की जो डील थी और प्लस जो इंजन को लेकर जो डील थी जिसको लेकर डिस्कशन हुआ था.
Thank you. Right. I saw another hand. No, if not, yeah, somebody else had a query on defense issues. Yeah, go ahead. Not defense, I'll come back to you. So then maybe this next round we'll do it.
As I mentioned in the opening remarks itself, we have a very thriving defense cooperation between the two countries. While the purchases have been going for quite some time, co-development and co-production have been the focus during last few years. Under that, as you know, during Prime Minister's visit to US, GE 414 was agreed to by US government. Under that, we are finalizing the commercial arrangement and the necessary legal requirements are being put in place. So this is on track. It will happen as was originally scheduled. Regarding the MQ-9B hail, that is high altitude, long endurance, we have some understanding. We have given our request, letter of request has gone there and they have to respond. The US company has to take clearance from their government and come back to us. Meanwhile, we have necessary capability to take care of our immediate threats. Regarding the infantry combat vehicle, this is a part of the defense industry cooperation roadmap between the two countries. The provision under this roadmap is to co-develop and co-produce machinery, equipment, weapons required by the two countries. So any cooperation in this sector will happen when Indian military's needs are finalized specifically and then they arrive at a production plan. So the initial offer on several infantry combat vehicle systems has come from US. We have expressed our interest in discussing further to take the co-development and co-production part ahead. So this will take some time. We will work, our teams will work, industrial and military teams will work with the US industry and defense teams and come out with a concrete plan in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I know I had a few whom I interrupted you. Yeah, please go ahead. This is the last one. We're running a little behind time. Quickly, please keep your questions
Sir,
short.
I'm Huma Siddiqui from the Financial Express. Just wanted to know what was discussed in the space cooperation. We have already signed the Artemis Accord, so any project identified? And
Yeah,
will
sure.
they help us
Yeah.
in building the space station which Prime Minister Modi had announced recently?
Yeshi, quickly.
This is Yeshi Seli from the New Indian Express. Was Bangladesh a part of the discussions you had, especially considering the fact that US has been very concerned about free and fair elections in Bangladesh, and India too, we have the rising influence of China is also a point of concern.
Look, I see a lot of hands, but I'm not sure we'll be able to cover everybody. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you raised your hand first.
सर विजयलक्ष्मी हूँ इंडिया टीवी से इजराइल हमास पे पूछना चाहती हूँ हालांकि पहले राउंड में आप जवाब दे चुके हैं लेकिन हिंदी में क्या इजराइल हमास को लेकर चर्चा हुई और भारत का क्या रुख था क्योंकि सीज फायर को लेकर युद्ध विराम को लेकर लगातार
देखिए वो टॉपिक कर चुके हैं हम वो नहीं जी अभी वो मौका नहीं है मिस्टर एमरसन आई इंटरप्टेड यू व्हाट इज योर क्वेरी या यू हैव द माइक
Good afternoon. I want to ask if South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait issues was discussed by the ministers. Thank you.
Yeah, Kalol.
Lol from the Hindu. Just coming back to the issue of Hamas, since the colleague just mentioned it, just a specific question here. That is the Israeli concerns about Hamas that Israel has been taking up with India. Did it feature in the dialogue? Especially, was India asked to ban Hamas as a terrorist organization? Did this issue come up during the talks?
I saw one more hand. Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Let me give. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Shailesh Kumar from National Defense. This question is to Foreign Secretary, sir. Sir, can you spell out specifics about Gurpatwant Singh Pannu? How is
Foreign Secretary answered that. Yeah.
How is he using the
No,
US and
sorry.
Canadian soil?
No, that's not the topic. He answered that question and that. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, and you'll be the last one. Yeah.
This is Sandhya from ET. So I just would like to know a bit around the semiconductor cooperation that we are having with US. Is there any plan for co-development also in the semiconductor field? Thank you.
Final question to you. Jan? Okay. Thank you, sir. I think the same question was there. Oh, you have a question? Okay, final question then. Yeah, quick.
Raza from the Hindustan Times. Question for the Foreign Secretary. Given the fact that the US ambassador has already announced that President Biden has been invited to the Republic Day celebrations as a guest, was there any discussion on that and whether that has been accepted?
Thank you, sir.
On the space cooperation part, you're all aware that this has been a very strong area of India-US partnership. Multiple segments to it, particularly following the signing of Artemis Accords by India during Prime Minister's visit, which allows us a new dimension of commercial space cooperation. I think the two sides would be setting up a working group which would have both, of course, ISRO, NASA, and other US governmental entities to take forward cooperation. Partnership in Artemis Accords already opens up the civilian outer space exploration area. The other area of partnership on which considerable discussions have taken place in recent months is our engagement on the human space flight program for International Space Station. Naturally, these are ongoing discussions, and the relevant agencies from the two sides will continue to hold the discussions to further progress the cooperation on this matter. Uh, Bangladesh, as I mentioned, extensive discussions took place on different regional developments in South Asia, in other parts of the world also. Insofar as Bangladesh is concerned, we shared our perspective very, very clearly. It is not our space to comment on the policy of a third country. I think when it comes to developments in Bangladesh, elections in Bangladesh, it's their domestic matter. It is for the people of Bangladesh to decide their future. We, as a close friend and partner of Bangladesh, we respect the democratic processes in Bangladesh and will continue to support that country's vision of a stable, peaceful and a progressive nation that the people of that country seek for themselves. We were very clear in sharing our perspective on how we look at our situation in different parts of the world, and that includes Bangladesh, with the US side during these discussions. On the Taiwan, on the question from our friend, as I mentioned, we did discuss very extensively regional issues, and we can say that, as Defense Secretary also mentioned in his opening remark, that India stands for a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific, peaceful Indo-Pacific, stable and prosperous Indo-Pacific. And India and US share a vision of upholding the freedom of navigation and also, of course, the overseas flight. That's the context in which the regional discussions in that part of the world were discussed. विजयलक्ष्मी जी, जो आपका इजराइल हमास का प्रश्न था, मैं पहले ही उसका उत्तर एक प्रकार से दे चुका हूं कि इजराइल के संदर्भ में, इजराइल के उस क्षेत्र में जो हो रहा है उसके संदर्भ में जो वार्तालाप हुई, उसका क्या परिप्रेक्ष्य था. मैंने बताया कि भारत की जो हमेशा ये पोजीशन रही है टू स्टेट सॉल्यूशन की परिप्रेक्ष्य वो था. ह्यूमैनिटेरियन असिस्टेंस का परिप्रेक्ष्य है, वहाँ पर जो आतंकवाद की घटना आई उसका परिप्रेक्ष्य है, सिविलियन कैजुअल्टी हुई उसका परिप्रेक्ष्य है. तो इजराइल पैलेस्टाइन के मुद्दे पे लेके दोनों देशों समेत जो वार्ता हुई वो इन 3-4 मुद्दों के परिप्रेक्ष्य इसके इकोसिस्टम के अराउंड बिल्ड करके की गई. Are there any other things which are there? Yeah. Look, on the semiconductors issue, it's an area of cooperation which is actually relatively new but very promising and very extensive. When the Honorable Prime Minister had traveled to the US in June, many of the conversations had taken prior to that, but during that visit there were extensive engagement, not just with the US leadership. You would recall that during Honorable Prime Minister's visit there was a very strong tech dialogue which was held at the White House. So not only with the leadership but also with the US business leadership, the commercial leadership. And the results of that have been all visible to us within the short span of last 3-4 months. You would know that company Micron, for example, has broken ground already for an establishment that leads us to greater semiconductor cooperation. Our discussions with the AMD company, our discussions with the US companies with regard to the training of the skilled personnel, again relating to the semiconductor space, capacity building. Semiconductor space is not a monolith which is limited to, let's say, only chip manufacturing, which is of course often most talked about. There are elements which relate to the stages which are precursor to the chip manufacturing. Our cooperation with Micron is one of the important segments of that. Training and capacity building in that space is a very, very crucial area of semiconductor. That's an area on which there is a very intense, strong and very wide base of discussion between India and the US, both involving the two governments because it does have some regulatory aspect, but also involving the businesses on the two sides. So on and on, an area which has actually shown strong achievement just within the span of last 4 to 5 months. And we are confident that the 2+2 discussions which have concluded today will give it further impetus and drive it much faster. Thank you.